because I see that you have a very ambitious project, and obviously Ghana has a high potential to develop. I have myself about 3 projects which I want to discuss with you, but in whatever direction I turn it, it ends up with the question of energy. So what is the government doing about this? That is my question.
Okay, so it's an energy situation, question.
How
okay.
are we going to provide
enough energy for the energy-intensive industries? Okay, let's get another question, please.
Real quick, Honorable Minister, I know you just came off a successful election, so you know this. The youth of Ghana is about 62%. And most of the youth are unskilled or ill-skilled. It means they're skilled in the wrong areas. So if developments that you are talking about are going to happen, then you are going to need human capital that looks like all the people left in this room. Now, how do you intend us coming in to help develop this nation if the 3 basic things we need are place to rest our heads, transportation to move around, and a system linked with data? Because the most difficult thing right now is getting our things through the port. We cannot get our things through. So if you can really work on helping us, stabilizing us here, then maybe you will have the workforce that you need, the skilled labor that Ghana doesn't have to pay anything for. We already skilled, and we want to come home. So please take a look at that and work on that with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Let's take 1 from there, take 2 from there, and then we'll come back here.
Good evening, Honorable. My name is Ryan, and I'm from Austria. An assistant to the former OPEC Secretary General. My question is, Honorable, we're talking about industries, we're talking about trading. Are we looking to be the next China or the next Japan or the next Germany, where we talk about quality or mass production? Where are we? Do we have a target? And my other question is, it's about our attitude. For example, the recent case of ECG not following up on bills and so on. How are we supposed to know that we're coming into the system and contribute properly, where we would pay our dues as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we, Honorable Minister, can we get some...
Can I follow up on just one question before?
Real quick.
Okay. Honorable Minister, I'm a chemical engineer as well as this gentleman, also been in the oil and gas industry for probably several years. I'm out of Houston. And my question is just very similar to what the gentleman said. I think Mr. Dati was talking on earlier, mentioned that if you wanted to do any of those petrochemical industries, you need to get energy at about 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And earlier on, another gentleman talked about the system selling energy at 24 cents per kilowatt hour. So the question is, knowing very well that bauxite or alumina exploitation is that very energy intensive, as my colleague said. I've done some work on the iron ore, actually, on Upon Manso area for some time. So I have an idea about how much energy is involved in that. And that's also quite extensive. So the question is, what is your strategy for energy generation? Kosovo cannot take it, and I don't know what the thermal plants in the system can do. That's my first question. The second one has to do with the overall industrialization concept. I think we were trying to compare, or you were trying to compare us to the Chinese. Chinese spent 40 years. But I think I've done a lot of work in China, and one thing I think they are very good at is discipline. Do we have the discipline? to do that? That's my question.
Thank you very much. I'll just take a last question from this section. Yes, quick question. We just want to finish here and then we'll just be done with you. Just your quick question, please.
Good evening, Honorable Minister. My name is Harry Wolf, and been in London for about 38 years. Come back to Ghana with a few companies to set up a consortium. I have a few questions. I'll try not to make it many. The first one is on the PPPs. Once a PPP is set over a long period of time, it becomes a historical asset. And I want to find out the principle in a PPP over a number of years. When the heir or the successor comes back from the diaspora, whom does he revive that PPP with? Or does he abandon it if it is dormant? That is one. Two is with regards to the landlines, telecommunications in Ghana. Has the entire population decided that they no longer want landlines in Ghana? And why is it that the mobile phones are now the only telecommunication system that Ghana is adhering to? And my next one is on the issue of welfare. Ghana is not a welfare state, and there's a lot of people suffering in the country. I want to find out, as Ghana progresses and becomes a very prominent emerging state, how does Ghana want to help the poor who are not working?
Thank you.
When Ghana becomes a global village or part of the global village.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. So we're done with here. Let's take those questions and then we get the responses. Yes, go ahead.
My name is Kojo Ajay. I'm from US. This is just an advice to the organizers. We got a lot of tons of information which the mind cannot comprehend in this room as we are here. Could it be possible that all this information, you know, we get our emails that has been given.
Sure.
Can all those information be sent to the emails so that when we go home, we can relate on it and then know what to do?
Absolutely.
My next thing is, we thank all the speakers. They have given us a very good informant information, and especially Honorable Chairman, Alan Chairman. But what I'm asking is, you know, could MPP be very, very strict and really look to find a way to stop corruption in Ghana? Because when we come and all these things that we want to do, the information given to us, the money we have to invest, if corruption goes on and all these bribes are going on, we end up to be frustrated, very, very frustrated. And everything that we are talking about, we go back and we don't want to come back again. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the last two questions, yes. Lady and the man. Okay.
Yeah. Sherry Thompson. They also call me Mama Lou, M-A-M-A-L-O-O. Yes, that is toilet sanitation. That's what I talk about most of the time. I've been here in Ghana for 21 years. Don't go back. It's frustrating, but if you stick it out, you will make this a garden, a paradise. That's what we're here to do. And so today, you can't get frustrated. There's a whole lot of things that we can do to move things forward. So we got to work together. We can't sit up here and say you're going to go back because you're frustrated. I've been here 21 years. If anybody should be frustrated, it's me. I'm here. I've named myself after a toilet facility. That's frustration. Hallelujah. Yeah. Alan, hi. You haven't seen me in a long time, but I'm coming to talk to you. One of the things that you talked about, and actually it was touched on by everybody in some form or fashion, is the formalization of the informal sector. I spend a lot of time mentoring young people. They need money, but they also need an opportunity to prototype their ideas. I'm a startup right now. It's Sunshade Energy. I won the Negawatt competition for energy efficiency in 2015. And yes, we went ahead to the international competition and we lost by 1 point, but we got our accolades for the most original and innovative idea. So at the end of the day, we have a lot of young people, and I'm talking about young people, SMEs, they're starting out. They have wonderful ideas, they're innovative, but they don't have the opportunity to prototype their idea. And that's not, they're not asking for money necessarily. They're asking for the opportunity to patent their idea, to prototype their idea, to get it to a place where they can tweak it and make it proper for piloting and then production. Unless you start with research and development, yes, that's the R&D word, hallelujah. You see, here in Africa, it's not just Ghana, soup is ready. That is what everybody wants. But we're not here to do soup is ready. We're here to work and to start off with ideas and to process those ideas and to make those ideas work into production so that we can have industry. And at the end of the day, we will have an economy to be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the gentleman wants to ask a question, the last man. Okay, thank you.
My name is Matt Affle, a retired aerospace engineer and an ex-owner of an aircraft maintenance company in the US, Seattle, and in Ghana. Honorable Alan Chermatin, greetings from Nana Kujukunduya of Elmina. The diaspora pamphlet states that at least 6 out of our 9 civil presidents were diasporans. So I had expected these 6 to have known that diasporans all want to come home at one time and contribute. They also must have known the dangers and the obstacles that face us and deter us from coming. I will name a few: the bribery, the nepotism, all that. So my question is, what lessons have they learned? Such seminars have been going on since Ambassador Deborah's time in the 70s. I attended some of them. What lessons have they learned that they can teach us to mitigate all the drawbacks, all the failures? My example, the Boeing venture here, that failed. The AGOA that Chairman, Alan Chermatin, you just mentioned, I wrote a letter to the House Ways and Means Committee in support of Congressman McDermott's effort. And he tells me that Ghana cannot even compete because our finishing is poor compared to all the others. Is the government doing anything to at least help, promote, and encourage, educate all the aspiring seamstresses, tailors, and whatnot? I know Dr. Mensah solicited funds for an ultramodern airport facility. He couldn't even get the government to sign an MOU. So when we are talking about diasporans coming to invest, there seems to be a disconnect between the diasporans and what the government ought to do to help. The synergy is not there. Mr. Minister, you've been in the States. What are you going to do, or the government going to do, to stitch the two areas? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Minister, please, respectfully, I would like to have you come up, Mr. Chermatin. Yes, lots of the questions are directed at you. So there's intellectual property questions, there's issues of corruption, industrialization, dealing with energy, and the strategy for energy generation, industrialization, it's a full plate. But I'm sure you're up to the task.
Thank you very much. I think these are excellent questions. We'll make an attempt at addressing the issues raised. First, energy. And I think there was one lead question and then some other person raised another issue in respect of energy. What I'd like us to consider is that the past is important, but it is only important when you use that as a bridge to the future. Yes, the kind of projects that we've been talking about requires energy. But I want to suggest to you that let us not evaluate the viability of the kinds of projects we are talking about only in terms of our existing energy infrastructure. Because precisely why we are talking about these projects now at the beginning of the term of our office is to make sure that we have an integrated plan where my requirements in terms of energy for my industrial projects feeds into the energy plan, resource planning by the Ministry of Energy. And we're working together very closely. So, for example, the Ministry of Energy is trying to do an energy audit of all the things that we are talking about. So that becomes the basis for planning our energy requirements. And I'm sure if we had the time, I would have explained a little bit about some of the ideas that are emerging. Obviously, you all know that we have a serious constraint with using hydro as the focus of our energy generation mix. We've transitioned into thermal energy over the last couple of years, but I'm sure most of you are aware that we are now looking more at renewable energy. And it's a mix of these energy sources that we believe is going to provide the quantum of energy that will feed into the kind of projects that we are talking about. So maybe this might not be an appropriate forum for us to tell you about all that we are hoping to do to enhance our energy portfolio. But I can assure you that it is very much part of our integrated development plan exercise. So if you are already thinking about responding to some of these industrial opportunities, please let us talk and then we can tell you a little bit more about some of the energy projects that we are looking at. The second one was in respect of skilled labor. So my brother, you are absolutely right. But again, that is the reason why we are talking about these projects, because it is the clarity of your vision that allows you to be able to work out the implications of implementing your vision. And so already we know that we have to feed our human capacity resource requirements into our curriculum development program. And not just the educational curriculum, but the post-education training, skills training, which is required. So we are not just looking at people coming out of school and then entering into these, I would say, sophisticated industrial enterprises. There's an intermediate training program that hopefully would feed them into the kind of projects that we are looking at. So if it's garment, what we are looking at is developing sector-specific skills training programs. If it is for the petrochemical industry, that immediately tells us that you need sector-specific skills training for the people who come out of, let's say, the University of Science and Technology. So it's all about integrated development planning. But then this also leads us to how can we then mobilize our diasporans to fit into the human capacity requirements of these projects. I guess that's one of the reasons why we are here. It's not every diasporan here who is seeking to come and invest in a particular project. Some people want to come home, they have skills that they've developed, and they want to use those skills, but there may be no opportunities as before for them to use their skills. But now you see from the kinds of things that we are talking about, that if you plan to relocate, at least government working with the private sector has something that will make use of your talent and your skills. The next one, if I understood it well, had to do with quality, and we're talking about these great ideas, and are we going to be able to compete? I'm not sure whether that was the issue, but if that was, I can assure you that it is also part of our planning process. And we don't want to sound over enthusiastic without doing what it takes to be able to compete. And already, I'm sure you all know that when Ghana decides to get things done and done properly, we are the best. You know, some of our people in the VRA and in those sectors that we've been working on for many years, you can compare them to the same sectors all over the world. So please don't let us be despondent about whether we can rise up to the challenge of competing. That is what I can say about that. Then I think there was also an issue about information about opportunities available. Again, my understanding was that this is one of the objectives of this summit. And Ernst & Young, they are here, our lawyer is here. There are many people who have the capacity to provide the kind of information on opportunities that are available. So let's see how this summit goes, and then maybe we can take off from there. Discipline for industrialization. You're absolutely right. We just got back from an official trip with the Vice President in China, and there's absolutely no doubt that one of the things that has taken China to where it is now is discipline. But again, all I can say is that it depends on what the government seeks to do and using the kind of policy instruments to ensure that we change the mindset of Ghanaians. You can't do industrialization and have a situation where people don't understand the culture of manufacturing, you know. And so I believe that it is all part of our planning process. This links us to a question that came up, I think, on the garment industry, if I can understand, or if that was the question. Then I can assure you that when, during our first term of office in government, when we decided to start the garment initiative to export to AGWA, I, working with some local, this is not foreign investors, local companies that had started developing that capacity to export. You know, in the business of garment manufacturing, they would normally start you with trial orders for a year or two before they start giving you confirmed orders. I can tell you that at that time when we started, right from when we started our trial orders, within a matter of 3 to 6 months, we were already getting confirmed orders. So it's a question of us believing in our own capacity that it can be done. And government is committed on our side to provide the support to the private sector to make sure that we provide what it takes for our companies to be able to compete. The issue of welfare, again, Of course, that's a difficult one because we believe as a government that the most sustainable way of dealing with poverty is through job creation. I mean, when people earn income, then they are able then to move along that path towards prosperity. So all the things that we are talking about is supposed to gradually lift people out of poverty. But there is still a section of the population that will remain underprivileged. That is correct. And that is why we have programs like the LEAP, which is the Livelihood Empowerment Program, where those who are designated as very poor households are actually given fiscal cash to be able to support their families. The other such programs that time will not allow us to talk about. Maybe the last one, and before I invite my colleagues, is with corruption. I think this government has given enough indication about our senior, particularly from the level of the presidency, that we are committed to dealing substantively with the issue of corruption. I'm sure you've heard about the fact that we are working towards establishing an office of a special prosecutor. There are institutional arrangements, institutional reforms that would also be put in place, all to address this issue of corruption. And obviously, there's also a human element, but that is always a question of leadership by example. And that is why the president is always very confident about the fact that he wants to set the right example, and he believes that that will also be part of the process of dealing with corruption. So maybe if my colleagues can also add to that. Thank you.
I think there was one question on PPPs. If I heard you right, then the answer is quite simple. The answer is that it depends on the nature of the agreement, because the question, as I heard it, was reviving a dormant PPP project. It depends on the agreement. But if the dormancy occurred as a result of what we would normally call material adverse effects, because circumstances have changed, let's say inflation went out of control beyond your budget, and as a result, you couldn't perform anymore, then if you have the right agreement, there is always a recourse to government. So unless there is something specific you want to discuss, in which case we can talk about it when we have the break, and I can address the specific question. Otherwise, I will reduce it to the agreement. But once I'm on it, I have a suggestion, which I think is a good suggestion for my colleagues in the diaspora. And this I talk about a lot when I get occasion to speak in public. There's something I have discovered about the Ghanaian, which at least those of us residents here, we seem to be afraid to make contributions. We seem to always be wanting to look towards somebody in authority to help, even though we can have suggestions we can make to them. And I will highly recommend that those of you in the diaspora who have brilliant suggestions, you've experienced these things elsewhere, especially for a government which has established a secretariat for diaspora relations. I will find it difficult to see why people cannot collate the ideas and make suggestions to them and say, for example, this is how to solve the power problem. And I'll give you an example, because you asked about power in particular. Because I have made a recommendation, and I'm not a politician, I made a recommendation at the Energy Forum where the minister and his deputies were there, and hopefully it will be taken. If you take the sources of power that will solve the industrialization problem, as I indicated, you cannot deal with more than 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Canada sells power to the aluminum sector at 2.4. The next highest, if you take the spectrum through US, is China. China sells it at 4 cents per kilowatt hour. And they only did it when they said if industries are not producing more than 1 million metric tons of alumina, then you have to buy the power at a higher tariff. Ghana sells it at 5 cents. The sources of power that can enable us sell it at 3.5 is hydro, coal, nuclear, wave, and maybe solar. One suggestion I have made, and again, I believe the politicians will take it up, is we can do a power source swap, which is simply saying that if you assumed that Akosombo, which produces at 3.5, is the one supplying Valco. Then irrespective of who supplies Valco, you swap the source. The next stage you go to is to do what I call the Aluminium Sector Sinking Fund, where because you have a downstream industry, those who make the higher margin put money in the fund to then backstop the government in the event the government has to subsidize anybody. And these are structures that you make suggestions exist elsewhere. And I expect the aspirants who have experienced these things elsewhere to make the suggestions through the secretariat boldly, instead of always we saying, oh, what can the politician do? How are you solving the problems? They also need suggestions. And then that way we can all work together and succeed together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. David Ofusudote AB and David, Mr. Jabanano, partner at Ernst & Young, and of course the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry, Mr. Alan Shermanting. And thank you for your attention. We are done with the panel discussions, and if you still have the appetite, and I hope you do, there are some workshops that are happening right now. The director of the Tema Port drove all the way here, just within the speed limit, to speak to you. He's at meeting room 2 outside. He's talking about importation of goods. Somebody made a submission about the frustrations at the port. Please, he's the man to speak to. He's in meeting room 2. If you are interested in one district, one factory, you want to stay here, and I beg your pardon, one district, one factory is in Committee Hall 2, which is on the right. And the coordinator of that particular project, Gifty Ohini Kunedu, is there as the moderator. For those of you who are staying here, you will be having the Investor Experience Workshop to be moderated by Mr. Jabanona from Ernst & Young. And finally, the Hidden Dangers Workshop will be moderated by Professor Frimpong Boateng, the Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation. That's at Committee Hall 1 on the left. So Committee Hall 1 on the left when you go out for Hidden Dangers. Meeting Room 2 also on the left when you go out. That's for importation of goods at the ports. Investor Experience is right here to be moderated by Jabanona. And Committee Hall 2 on the right for one district, one factory. For those of you who want to go to the gala on Saturday, the tickets are available at room 116. They are fast running out. They are being sold on a first come, first served basis. So if you're interested in kicking back and relaxing on Saturday, dressed up to your nines and just enjoying your good times, you want to buy your tickets for the gala at room 116. Tickets fast running out. Make sure that you get your tickets. Thank you very much.
We're not coming back here. No. So the summit starts here at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. Registration starts at 8
okay. Registration starts tomorrow at 8 o'clock. 9 sharp, we kick off. Thank you very much.
On her, listen, she's gone.
Oh, she's gone.
Waited,
okay.
She's gone. So one district,
one quick announcement. The one district, one factory workshop will not happen. So we have the Hidden Dangers workshop in the room, Committee Hall 1 on the left. We've got the importation of goods workshop also on the left when you step out. And then we have the Investor Experience workshop right here in the main hall. Thank you for your attention. Tomorrow, registration begins at 8 o'clock. And God willing, we shall be here to help you have a great experience. Thank you. So many classes are here. You want to? It's true.
They want to do this, they don't want to do this. So two people are starting to discuss some deals that they want to cancel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Really should
You mentioned something Saturday.
Gala. There's a dinner dance.
Okay, in the evening.
Well, I don't have
Christoph Damali. Yeah, but so how do I contact you? Since
I'm going to say, is this on a WhatsApp?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to.
Yes, madam. So you send me the mail.
Yes.
Please, I need the card, please.
I want to give you my card.
Yes.
So I will. What about you? I'm sorry, I don't
You have to give me specifics. I don't know.
Very well. Thank you. Yeah, very well. Thank you. All right. You. Let everyone wait now. I had a question about refinance. Say for instance, there's road networks in Ghana, and every constituency MP has like.
Whose did you want?
So we don't want to, as an individual.
And then what?
The finance minister also.
He didn't have a
He didn't have a presentation. Youth, yes. And what this man, the lawyer, the one that spoke on PPP.
Yes.
We'll be here tomorrow. So
Okay.
Oh, so we are meeting. Yes. This one, nobody is trying to find anything about the okay. They come here.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, those who are staying here for the workshop, please stay, and those who are going to other workshops, please head for those workshops so that we can get started. If you're not interested in the investor experience, please go to the other workshops that you're interested in, or exit the hall so we can get started. Please. Pardon? One district, unfortunately, the moderator waited and had to leave, so that one is no longer coming on. She had to leave. The thing overran, and so she had to leave. So you may attend the other workshops. Okay. Excuse me, can we take it off the stage, please, so we can get the next workshop going? Can we take it off the stage, please? Please, we need our stage back. Please, please, we need our stage back. We've got a workshop going on here. Please, can we have our stage back? Please, can you leave the stage?
It seems we're missing a mic. So if somebody has found a mic that they shouldn't have, could you please let us have it back? Please, can we have our stage back? We haven't finished. We've got a workshop here. Can we have our stage back, please?
Challenges ends overseas. I do not want to sound like a broken record, but on occasions such as this, it is worth repeating that on 7th January 2017, I inherited an economy confronted with significant challenges. 73% debt to GDP ratio, a fiscal deficit of 9%, 2.4 billion United States dollars debt overhang in the energy sector, a growth rate of 3.6% in 2016, the lowest in the last 23 years, erratic power supply, declining agricultural and industrial growth rates, high production and operating costs, high lending and inflation rates, widespread unemployment, and widespread corruption. That is why the people of Ghana voted emphatically for change, and that is why I am here today as President of the Republic. The conditions in our country demand the government machinery functions efficiently and at full force, and that nothing is left on autopilot. The conditions demand that all of us, each and every one of us, in and out of Ghana, play a significant role in helping to put our country and its economy on the path of progress and prosperity. You, better than anyone gathered here, know that the key programs and policies that have allowed the economies of Europe, Asia, and the Americas to develop so spectacularly have been: 1, the modernization of their agriculture; 2, the development of their industrial base; and 3, the reordering of their financial sectors to support growth in agriculture and growth in manufacturing and industry. On the contrary, our economy over the years has been largely dependent on the production and export of raw materials, which you and I both know cannot and will not create the high numbers of good-paying jobs for the masses of our people. It is for this reason that I have put before the Ghanaian people the most ambitious program of social and economic transformation of any government in the history of the Fourth Republic, if not in our entire history. This program aims at stimulating growth in the private sector so that it can create jobs. A monetary policy that is stabilized